this one day.
What's that? You're gonna have.
Yes.
You want to get this track? It's a pretty badass little track, actually. So, all right, we're back. We
Yeah.
had a little issue. Technically, Zoom. We seem to have one every week, and I keep it's a new one every week though. So that's the fun part. Is it's always different here. We were getting
Yes.
kind of heavy, by the way. We were getting into the religion thing, which we've never done.
Yes, I was loving that.
You like that? All right. So we didn't really get into it. We did, and in the conversation, just to reiterate, if somebody's just jumping in this one and ignoring the other one, is we were talking about religion in general, and then I brought up something that I'll probably get shit for, which was I said that I feel like when people say that they're spiritual, it's kind of bullshit. It's like a cop out statement of my statement is just admit you don't know. You can say you feel something, but you don't know, and to me, spiritual, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But you actually had
I don't know. Can I prove? I can't prove anything.
Can't.
But I have a connection to something so much larger than me. I have a great belief in the there's the Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is what I have the greatest sense of connection to. A feeling that when I feel that, that it's divine. There's nothing else that it is.
I get. I'm not saying I don't have those feelings. I just don't. To me, I feel like it's more of it's a natural thing. I feel those motions of that quote unquote spiritualness or God or Gaia or whatever the heck you call it. I don't care. Really, right? And it's okay, whatever you believe in it. I feel when I find that it's when I'm out in nature. I don't or if there's a moment with my daughter or something that kind of just pops for me where it's it's freaking this is what life is about. That's when I feel that connection. But I don't prescribe to a book that was written 4,000 plus years ago, and then some. The Old Testament I'm talking about, and then the New Testament or whenever the Old Testament was done. A book that was written by somebody who doesn't live in today's society and doesn't understand science like we do. Why would I do that? And then you have people who have edited the Bible, 400 years later, 500 years later, after it was compiled, and they've decided these books don't matter. And it's how do you do that if it's written by God? Who are we to edit God?
The thing is, it's not in its actual truest. It's always been a thing that frustrates me. Is I feel like the Bible is often talked about or portrayed as the autobiography of God.
Right. That's what I mean.
That's not what it is.
So what would you impart the knowledge of a preacher's son here?
Well, I mean, even separate from it being a preacher's son, but just from looking at it as documentation, it is a series of essays and letters and parables, all centered around a centralized, God or Jesus figure, but it's not it is referenced as the word of God, but I was always frustrated by the fact that it's not the autobiography.
Well, look,
it's recollections of.
And here's the thing, because my statement because I believe what you're saying. I believe it's all fable. Everything's representational. It's not like Eve came from a rib. People, all right. I mean, it's all to create a context of a story about mores and what's good and what's bad and all that, right? Because honestly, if you tell me for anybody, I can't get past the Abraham and Isaac story, or is it Isaiah or is it Isaac? I always forget. Where he's supposed to kill his son at the top of the mountain. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but here's the thing. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go. No. I'm still frustrated with that story, but go. No, you tell me, please. Here's the thing.
No, but it's me. I do. So yes, do I believe that they are what's the word you just used? Not fables. You said another word.
What did I say? Well,
But they are parables.
they're parables. That's the word.
They're teaching lessons, right? Um,
Yes.
there are aspects of it that I find fantastical as a as a reader,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
There are aspects that feel um, very true, very very real. Miracle, small. Not. I don't want to even say small miracles, but little miracles or things that are like for me, for the fact that I had a really bad back injury 25 years ago, and
Yes.
I technically should not be able to walk.
Mm-hmm.
I just should not. And to me, that's divine. I can't explain it. Not that someone who is paralyzed does not also have a sense of a divine, but
Yes.
And there are also things that are like Noah's Ark is a hard story to process.
Yes.
Right? That's a lot of animals.
It's a lot of. It's not even the amount of
A
animals.
lot.
It's that okay. So every animal they came from two. That whole thing. Like, and I guess that's where my problem is. Is like, I feel like there should be a conversation or consensus that we all like. If you believe that everything that's in the Bible is literally exactly what happened and the truth, you need to be put in a separate category of you're not a critical thinker, like at all.
Oh, I disagree with that.
Really?
I greatly disagree with that.
I know
feel
I'm
like
offending
that is
people as I speak, I'm sure, but it's like,
because here's the thing. I think this is an issue that I have with the world as it currently stands. It could be about the Bible. It could be about spirituality. I'm specifically going to reference it with the MAGA crowd. Anyone who identifies as part of that crowd of people, period. I
Yes.
think you are disgusting.
okay,
Period.
Sure.
I've never met you. Someone who may be hearing this and thinks, "Oh my God, who does he think he doesn't even know me?" Yep, I don't know you. I think you're disgusting. Anyone who would associate with anything related to that man. Simultaneously, I also believe in a world that would still allow those people to have health care, for their kids to be able to go to school, for them to be able to, own a home if they want. I still want them to have shit,
well,
but they don't want me to have anything, right? Wait, let me finish. Let me just say this.
oh
really
no,
quick, 'cause I
I'm
wanna
just
tie it all together.
go.
But and I connected to, if someone has a religious belief, right, that within their religious belief, my sexuality makes me evil or disgusting,
Or they need to
something,
change
that is
it.
what they feel.
They need to change it,
right,
or yeah,
fine. They can feel all of that. They don't have a right to enact it on me. That's where the line is drawn for me.
it's the same argument as
And I often
pro-choice
hear
to
that
me.
conversation with atheists and say it again with pro-choice.
Well, it's the same argument for pro-choice, right? It's like you can believe what you believe, right? But like that's your belief system, and that's not science's belief system, our belief system, or and so you can say, well, you might believe that the moment that seed is spilt, as some people take it to that extreme, right? That's a life, or it's the potential of life, and if you kill it, you're a murderer or whatever. And then so like that you're murdering when you have an abortion, it's basically murdering a fetus. That's the belief, right? But I think they need to recognize that their belief is not founded in science necessarily, and they're trying to prescribe their beliefs on other people, and that's the problem that we have in America, right? It's always
But see, to me, the problem is that they're trying to prescribe it on other people. It may be prescribe may actually be the right word, but not that they're trying to prescribe it on other people, but that they're trying to create law around it. So I'm 100% pro-choice.
Me too.
I'm 100% 100% a believer that men overall shouldn't really have any say in this conversation. We have no, we will literally never be in this scenario. Nothing, we cannot process it in any way, shape, or form to make a decision about what women should do. And I wouldn't want women to do that with something that had to do with, penises. Like, I don't,
Hmm.
I would want those of us who have them to talk about it, if you know what I mean.
Of course.
But
Well, yeah, and I think that's again that's like if you're a man and you're not pro-choice, you're just like I have an issue with you. You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
understand it.
Because it's not. You're
I don't
right.
understand
It's
it.
not.
Right. But with pro-choice, pro-life, if you if you do not believe in abortion, then do not have an abortion. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, if you feel like you feel like you are called, right, to help women who are choosing to have abortion, right? They may not feel like they need help, but you feel that you're supposed to help them. Um, you can have that calling.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have the right to make and enact law about what someone else can do
Mm-hmm.
with their own body.
Well, and I even look at the science of it, and what you'll find is like we actually have less abortions now, and everywhere you have education for birth control and everything, you have less abortions than even were done illegally before Roe v. Wade. And so it's kind of like if you really want less abortions, because they're gonna happen, and that was part of the arguments that were happening in Roe v. Wade. I believe is like, look, this is good. People are doing this anyway, but it's that. It's going to happen no matter what. So it's better to be safe and legal. First of all, let's start there for the mother. But yeah, I mean, if you don't want one, don't get one. But it should still be made available for those who do. Otherwise, they might find other means. And then also, unwanted children
Yes.
tend to be more likely abused. So if you're forced to have a child you didn't want to have, there's a potential that that child could be abused. That child could have a horrible, and be bad for society in general as a whole. And so those are a lot of ramifications that can come from somebody being forced to have a baby they didn't want to have. And so but that's again, it's neither here nor there because it's just not my choice. It shouldn't be my choice. It shouldn't be your choice.
Right.
That's what it is. And we veered a little bit away, honestly, because of the conversation on the religious side. And I
But
apologize.
no, bring it back. Bring it back to the Tom Brady thing.
To bring it back to the Tom Brady thing, which is hilarious that it comes all the way back to Tom Brady, but I believe Tom Brady sold his soul to the devil. And that's
Okay,
why he
okay.
is as good as he is. I'm just kidding, by the way, because again, if you didn't catch earlier, I'm not really a believer in all of that. But if somebody had sold their soul to the devil, it's gotta be Tom Brady. If the devil is real and you could sell your soul to have the success you want to have, it's gotta be him. And it's got, I mean, look at the
But why?
guy. Why? Because look at it. He's married to a supermodel. He's married to Giselle, who's, by the way, a brilliant human being. So like being a supermodel is not what makes her as cool as she is, right? And he's had the career he's had. The guy looks
Yeah.
like he's getting younger as he's gotten older, which is a little freaky, by the way, too. And it's just like everything this guy does, there's success to it. And so the other shoe may drop if he sold his soul to the devil, right? Just like, Robert Johnson at the crossroads. What's going to happen? Maybe,
Wow, Robert Johnson and Tom Brady in the same sentence.
there you
Never
go.
thought I'd see the
Who
day.
else? Yes, exactly. Tom. How could that? But you know
Wow.
what?
But let me ask you. So then
Yeah.
you could consider yourself friends with someone if you knew that they shared not that they shared, that they had a belief system or believed in a person or a party that could do harm to you or someone you cared about. You could remain friends with them, like hangout friends.
It comes at like hangout friends. It depends on. I can get along with just about anybody, but if you're like an outward like MAGA, like yeah, I mean like if you're like balls to the wall and you are still still on this thing, yeah, no, I don't have time in my life for people at that level of what I would consider a lunacy, right? Like if you are ignoring the facts that much, but if you're a Republican, absolutely, I'm friends with Republicans. I have Republicans in, like Jackie's side of the family is very Republican, and we just don't necessarily talk about it because I think they've learned not to talk to me about it, because if they bring up something, I like usually will knock their point down in like less than a second, and so it's just kind of it's really interesting when I hear points being made on their side, and so like lately they have, and honestly now that they don't have their guy in office and all these things, I haven't talked to them since or heard from them, and Jackie hasn't heard from her, like some of them as well, and so because I even asked her, I was like, well, you guys talk about this anymore? Like, no, not really, not really into that conversation, right? But look, I can be friends with Republicans, absolutely, and I am. All right. Sometimes, is it my best friend I'm going to hang out with all the time? No. I mean, would I do a show with them? I probably would, by the way, Rob. I would. I have no problem. But as long as they can have an intelligent conversation. And that's where the challenge comes in for me, is like when I'm starting to go, like, you got to be like a Lincoln Project Republican now, to me. Like, if you can't admit that this was an insurrection, you're not in reality.
But they still don't. But there are people who still don't want to, who are still making excuses, and I can't. I don't wish. I don't wish ill on people who identify as Republican, right?
Mhm.
I don't think that people who identify as Democrat are like gods and goddesses, right? So it's not that
Right.
binary in that way,
Right.
But you can't. Not for the way I hope to and strive to sort of live my life.
Mhm.
We can't hang out. If you support practices that could lead to like someone hanging me or shooting me,
Well,
or,
in I think this is a problem where it kind of comes back to a white privilege, right? Like I feel comfortable being able to talk to somebody like that because I don't necessarily have that fear personally, and that's something I have to recognize. Like I can understand very when I see a black Republican, I almost feel like I'm seeing like an albino. It's like what like how do you like? I mean, you're just such an oddity. It's
true.
such.
I am puzzled by not that you can't. You can be black and be Republican. The two are not exclusive. At this particular moment in time, I find it troubling and puzzling to see someone who is black or darker skinned Latino or
Right.
Middle Eastern something who
Mhm.
supports them as a party. That's puzzling, right? But you can be black and be Republican. I don't have an issue with that on its face, but I do have an issue with people who do not. You either have to call out what's been going on, or whose side are you on?
Well, I think it comes to that too. Like there's a it's really interesting because right now you have Biden who's like, yeah, I'll work with him, but he's kind of like stepped a little back from like I'm going to unite because the Republicans are like, fuck you, it's not going to work. And so now he's like, if they want to come to the table, I'm inviting them. They can bring whatever they want, and this is what we're going to do. And like they have a chance to be there. At least they have that. Like the Republicans didn't even invite Democrats to the table half of the time in the last 4 years. They so I think it's. And they could have just to show that they were doing it. That's all they had to do, really. But I think we're at this point where if they don't convict him, I think the Democrats should literally just be like, you're now being punished for not recognizing this because you've done wrong to the country, and like they should absolutely push through anything they can fucking push through. Absolutely anything. Whether I agree with it or not, I'm just saying that's what they should do. That's what Republicans would do. And they would have
That
done
is
it
what
with less.
Republicans could do.
They would have done it with less. They would have done it with less. They did it with a. They got fired up over Benghazi. All right, and I'm not
Thank
saying
you.
that wasn't something that needed to be investigated. It did, but like they even said there wasn't really anything there, you know. But they'll still make it up like it is. What's amazing is if you're going to ignore the facts now, then you need to not be allowed to vote. Is kind of where I feel not true.
I feel like it's a group of people who want to. They are determined to hold on to a former view of this country, right? For me, and one of the reasons I mentioned that we want to mention Mary Wilson, right?
Oh, Mary Wilson died. Yes, she was
the great Supreme.
Yes,
she was amazing. Love the Supremes, and I think about what they meant in culture, right? What they were representing, the changes.
What years we're looking at? The Supremes. It's like the same time as the Beatles, right?
We're looking at like 60, 40, 60s. 70, somewhere in there.
Right.
Yeah. They're absolute contemporaries. Mm-hmm. And the notion that the world that people were fighting for then, that we're still having to deal with so much of this now, is ridiculous. Right? That we're still living in a world of disgusting uber white privilege. A joke of a opening argument by the lawyer the other day, right? Like, it was really just pathetic to watch this happen, to even watch people try to defend what was happening.
There was
but while they're showing videos of like people attacking like the
Capitol building.
I can't think of the word, but it is the Capitol building. There's another word I was looking for, but I look at the people who, during the March on Washington, or people who've done any other sort of peaceful protest in the Capitol, right? I'm not talking about like people who were fighting in the street or whatever. I'm talking about people who had peaceful protests, and that was too much for people. Like, how dare they? How dare they kneel in the middle of the street? Like, that's insulting. We're better than that as a country.
I'm with you.
We moved through all of that in the 60s.
Where is the outrage? Right? Where is the outrage level from the kneeling? Where is the outrage level from the kneeling on this?
Yes.
Like I think
this.
And honestly, you're like I think you're the only person who's brought it up, by the way, which is like, to me at least, and I haven't seen anything else about this, and it's amazing to me, Rob, because when you say that now, like, you are the first person I've heard mention that. It's like, and remind me of like, remember the kneeling, you're disrespecting our flag, but you guys threw you rubbed shit on the people's house, like literally somebody rubbed feces on the wall.
They broke in the door. They broke windows. They left with shit. But the kneeling.
So
that was just
that was too much. But it's really crazy because sometimes I do feel like we do live in some kind of matrix, Rob. Like we're in some kind of weird, like made up world. Like I'm watching something on Hollywood because this is a movie series would be amazing if we didn't have to live through it. But because it's hilarious. Bruce Castor is now the funniest man in America to me because he got up in the impeachment and he basically said the two things that blew my mind was, first, he's like, the attorneys over here are really great speakers. Such great speakers, and I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but like they're such great speakers that we had to change what we're doing right now for you. Which is like, wow. So
he was begging for his life. He wanted these people to still like him when this.
It was amazing. And then there was another thing he said. It was either him or David Schoen, the other attorney, but I think it was Castor because he's the one who keeps. But I didn't get to see this. I just saw a quote, and he had basically said, "Why are we impeaching him? Why don't you just arrest him as soon as he leaves office?" And I'm like, really? Did you just make the argument to arrest your client? Hey guys, this isn't the forum to mess with my client, but you really probably should arrest him. He even said the people made the choice. He said the people, like, they have the smarts to, he said they have the intelligence to change administrations. Like, the amount of shade he threw his own client in his thing was kind of hilarious to me.
It's insulting that we even that we even have to sit through this. Like there are real issues and things that need to be taken care of in the world. And not that I think that, the impeachment process is a waste, but the notion that this horrible, disgusting man, that there's still news stories about, well, what did we do with him? Like, could the average person couldn't have done two of the things that he's done.
No.
But they just let him
No,
go
no,
because
no.
they don't want to admit because they'd have to admit that they were in on the sham all along.
And
People
that's exactly what this is now, right? This is holding on to not being wrong. Like it really comes down to like there's this weird culture on the Republican side that these guys would literally like if they had said this plane will never go into the ground and it starts going to the ground and they're on it, they'll be like, oh no, that's not what's happening, we're not going. I mean, it's like we don't need a parachute, it's gonna be fine, because they don't want to be wrong. It's to that level. Yeah. Like the plane is crashing and they won't admit it, and I think that's the problem. Is like the only principle.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene is driving the plane.
That is a crazy thing, but she kind of, in a weird way, is. Well, the funny thing is, and the Democrats will just use her. I mean, they're going to use her to raise money, just like they use Trump. And if the new tactic for the Democrats to get people to vote is to recognize how bad it could be if you don't vote for them. I mean, that's what they've shown. And no, like Marjorie Taylor Greene is a perfect example. It's like, this woman gets to be on education committee. Obviously, they took it away, and thank God. But it's like, if you don't keep us in power, she gets to have more power. What? Because her state will vote for her again. I mean, and that's what her district will vote for her again. It's amazing. So I think there is this level where we have to. The Democrats are going to they're like, thank you, keep giving us ammunition, and it's almost the same as like what I say that the Democrats give to the Republicans, which is, I mean, the Republicans will find ammunition out of nothing, by the way. They really will. But the Democrats sometimes give them something that's a nice little gem for them, like defund the police. Like
oh my God, we're not going.
No, we're not going there. We're not going there. But anyway, like I think sometimes there are things the Democrats do that obviously Republicans can grab right on to and be like, see how stupid and crazy they are. But like the one thing you can say, and maybe that's the argument that's going to be made, is like, we may be crazy, but we are not inciting insurrections. Like is that
that's the tagline?
That's a terrible. At least we didn't storm the Capitol.
At least we didn't storm the Capitol.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. Okay, let me ask you about this as we wind down, because we only have like 10 minutes.
Do we? Okay.
But he's a friend to the Trump crowd, even though they claim to hate each other. But so Bezos, Jeff Bezos, right?
Jeff Bezos.
We were talking earlier about his money and our thoughts about it.
So, like, I think there, and Elon Musk is in the same boat, right? But in a different way. Like, so Elon Musk is a brilliant guy, who, like, he does some wacky shit, but he's somebody I would call a visionary. I wouldn't say I'd say this. I mean, you can say the same about Jeff Bezos, but his vision is kind of ugly. Right? Like Elon Musk's is like clean energy and solar for everybody. And I'm going to do the space rocket shit too. Okay. And we're going to have space travel and we're going to go to Mars, and his big ideas, and he's doing that. And I feel like Jeff Bezos is like the guy who's trying to measure his dick with Elon Musk. Right. And so what we're having now is Jeff is retiring from Amazon, and I have no evidence or facts to back this up. This is straight out of my head, so nobody think this is. I think he's quitting so he can kind of do more Elon Musky things and like focus on his space program and his BS and like try to and the two of these are just going to have like a little competitive thing going on, kind of like the Steve Jobs versus Bill Gates kind of deal, you
Bill
know?
Gates.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's my thought about him leaving Amazon. The other thing I'll say is, and I need to look into Elon Musk, right? Like, but as far as how much Jeff Bezos gives, and I didn't get the numbers down, but I've seen it before, is how much money Jeff Bezos has and how much he does for charity and how much he does for fuck him. All right, he's not a good human being. He's just he can't be a good human being and pay his people what he does while he makes as much as he makes. All right.
And that's the
Now you wanted to bring up a conversation about him, so I'll let you bring up like the question of the mom and pop thing, right?
But even within that, including his workers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe in capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
As an artist, if I create something and people buy that product and I make tons of money off of it because someone came to see a play of mine or purchase a song or something or production, whatever, that's mine.
Right.
That's literally what I believe.
Sure.
And if that were to make me, $500 billion, then it makes me $500 billion. Inside of that, I do think there should be, I don't know I don't know if I want to say laws, but I want to say ways to, after a certain, income point, whatever's left gets, automatically dumped into education or dumped into something.
Well,
right?
I don't think it can be whatever's left, right? That's actually going a little too far for me. Like if somebody says you have like $20 billion and you really only need like 10, so 10 billion of that we're just taking away and putting it towards education. Like I get the thought process because, by the way, if you have,
it wouldn't even be that because you wouldn't be able to get to the 20
exactly
this thing. It would never happen.
Exactly. I think it has to come down to better tax laws and less loopholes, like a cleaner tax code and system, but also a wealth tax. Like, take a large percentage. What people don't understand is how the tax works, right? And I'm not an accountant, but tax is progressive. And so when they see tax rates up there and people are like, wow, you're taxing that much? That's like a lot for somebody who's making that much money. It's like, no, you're only taxing the amount that's above, I think it's like 455. That number keeps fluctuating. So that's just what's in my head right now. But say, just imagine $400,000, you're taxed at this percentage. You only taxed at that percentage for that first $400,000. Then the next $400,000 gets taxed at a different percentage. It's not that all of it gets taxed at that higher percentage. So that progressive tax is actually an effective way to tax wealth if it's not like cut the way it has been. And that's the problem. And that kind of brings me back to that whole Republican thing, right? Is like Republicans aren't Republicans anymore if they're not fiscally responsible. And it would be fiscally irresponsible to give away most of your revenue, which is what they did. I mean, they gave away a shit ton of their revenue by giving tax cuts to the rich. And now we can't pay for shit. And, and it's just funny how they're now being fiscally responsible. But back to the Jeff Bezos thing, like I do think there was this question you brought up about mom and pop shops and like, is he destroying the mom and pop shops? Kind of like the Walmart argument, right? And
right. Because people you can just order. I mean, I do it myself. I'm not saying that I don't order things. And a lot of the sort of mom and pop places that I remember are not here anymore because of it. It's convenient. So
it's convenient.
Why wouldn't people do what's convenient?
Really helps in the COVID world. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So it's tricky because, I mean, even prior to this, there is a role that he served, but it did not, and not that it had to take he didn't have to take into the account the community when he was developing Amazon. But as it was growing, I wonder who could have been was it up to community boards? Was it up to, I don't know, whom it would be to make sure that these sort of day-to-day places, stores can still exist and not go under as well.
But again, it's just the system changed, right? And I hate to say this, right? Like I think there's certain mom and pop shops that'll exist and thrive, but a lot of them didn't exist or thrive because they couldn't adjust to the changing times too. I mean, that's happened over the years of many different types of stores and stuff. And then others can reemerge during those times and understand how to work within them and be okay. It's the same thing as coal plants. I mean, like, you know, it's like this idea of like, we feel bad for all these coal miners, but yeah, coal's obsolete, dude. It's like, we're not really like wanting to work with coal anymore, and it's dangerous.
We should be helping them find new career paths or something.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think that's something to talk about. But the other way you could look at it is, I mean, Jeff Bezos is just your newest slumlord, right? For small mom and pop businesses. You can be a mom and pop business on Amazon. I mean, you can. I don't know if you want to, but you can work from home, I guess. You can do that. You can be, you know, there are people who do that, and they use Amazon as a means to make money. But Amazon has to, you know, you got to give your pound of flesh or whatever to Amazon. And so, yeah, they're just they're like the largest commercial landlord of the internet. Like that's kind of how I look at them. You know what I mean? Like if you look at it in terms of real estate, that's what Amazon is. Etsy's got something going on there, but they don't make a lot, but they do a thing. And there's a couple other places, you know, and everybody has their own websites. But those websites, I mean, everything. Amazon's a monster, man. I mean, it's like it's almost like it's almost hard not to get on Amazon if you're looking to buy something online.
Yeah. It's true. I try not to, and it takes intentionality, which takes away the convenience of it. But if you want it to change, you have to be inconvenienced.
You have to be inconvenienced. And I'm sorry. I mean, we use. It's like I'd love to say I don't, and I'm sure there's some diehards that are like, don't do it, don't use Amazon. It's like, well, so sometimes. I mean, I'll look somewhere else sometimes, and I don't only use it. That's for sure. I mean, it's very specialty items. I do try to go direct to the person. But yeah, I mean, if I'm buying a Lego, you know, like. You get it from Amazon. You know, it's like it's easy to get it or whatever for my kid.
I hope that you are not getting just one Lego.
You just the little tiny squares. They're really expensive. No, I mean, but you understand what I'm saying. I mean, it's like if I'm just.
And it'll come in a box this size.
It'll come in a box this size. Just one little tiny one.
But one.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it'd be interesting to see what they're really going to do to reduce waste. They're saying they're going to be all electric vehicles, and you know, and I hope that we see that on the government side too. I mean, it would be nice to do that, but we're
right.
I don't know. I don't like Jeff Bezos, but you got to respect what's been built, right? Because it was literally, you know, I mean, it started out as a way to get books. I mean, that was it. It was just books. Like, I mean, it's
yes. But do we have to respect that? That's a good conversation to have. Do we have to respect? Is that a phrase that should disappear? Because can I comprehend the growth of the company, right? And to study it as how to build a company, sure. Do I respect the way it was built? Not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, and the question is, how much could have been changed for the better? And it's still been the monster that it is, I guess, right? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, what could it only get to where it was by doing?
He could have paid his employees. He could have paid his employees a lot more.
Yes.
And still be a powerful, disgustingly rich person.
Absolutely. I mean, look. I mean,
there you go.
If you can't live off, honestly, if you can't like live and retire off like $10 million, I mean, then. You know, fuck you already. I mean, really, it's like nobody needs that much more money than that. You know,
you don't need it. If you made it fairly and squarely, you're entitled to it. I do believe that.
I get it.
But no, there isn't a need per se for $100 million.
The difference in your lifestyle from $10 million to $100 million isn't that much. I'm sure some guys will be like, it absolutely is. Yeah, okay, great. You get to fly more private jets.
But you know what? It is in a way that the average person can't even. We can't even comprehend that because they get to do this thing that costs $50,000, where none of us are ever going to do that thing.
That's true. But that thing probably destroys the environment somehow and just fucks up it for everybody else.
Thank you. Exactly.
It's like,
exactly.
Oh, all for this one rich a-hole, and it's like, and I don't hate rich people. I'm not saying that, It's just that, there's more to life.
I hear you. I hear you.
Anyway, we didn't talk one
This
bit
was
about
good.
we didn't talk at all about cannabis today, but we did delve into religion, and
Yeah, we had a good one there.
religion and Jeff Bezos, and
Insurrection and kneeling.
oh yeah, yes, kneeling, yes. I do want to see Ted Cruz be as upset about
Yes, I would love that.
inciting
I would love that.
insurrection than he was about kneeling at a football game. That would be a welcome change. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you next week where we'll
Yes.
talk about something else completely random and some fun cannabis topics as well. And until next time, everybody, peace, love, and